Good evening, and welcome back to Whispers at Night. Tonight, we expose the hidden horrors of the cruise industry with 10 of the most disturbing true stories of human trafficking at sea. Behind the glittering decks and luxury, a far darker reality thrives. These accounts come from crew members, passengers, and survivors who witnessed the unimaginable. People trapped and exploited in the middle of the ocean, where jurisdiction is blurred and escape nearly impossible. Each case is supported by testimonies, official reports, and investigations, showing how traffickers exploit the anonymity of international waters to operate unseen. According to the U.S. Department of Transportation, a Polaris study found 3% of trafficking survivors were transported by cruise ship, while a 2021 survey revealed 7% were relocated during their ordeal, proof that even paradise can conceal modern slavery. If you're new here, subscribe to Whispers at Night for nightly true horror stories that linger long after the screen goes dark. Don't forget to hit the bell so you never miss when we uncover the darkness hiding in plain sight. Now, step aboard, where paradise becomes prison and the endless ocean hides humanity's worst crimes. In March of 1998, what began as a family vacation aboard the Royal Caribbean's Rhapsody of the Seas turned into one of the most haunting mysteries ever recorded at sea. The Bradley family, Ron, Iva, their son Brad, and 23-year-old daughter Amy Lynn, boarded the ship with excitement. For them, this week-long cruise through the Caribbean represented rest, adventure, and a chance to spend time together before Amy began a new chapter of her adult life. She was athletic, vibrant, and full of plans for the future, having recently graduated with a degree in physical education. She wasn't the type of person who would just slip away unnoticed, and yet within hours of the cruise beginning, she would become a name known to investigators, journalists, and grieving families across the world as the young woman who vanished without a trace. The night before her disappearance, the ship had docked at the island of Curacao. Amy joined her brother Brad at the vessel's nightclub where the atmosphere was electric with music and dancing. The ship's band, Blue Orchid, played lively songs as passengers mingled and drank. Surveillance footage later captured Amy leaving the club just after 1 a.m, walking toward the elevators, seemingly ready to head back to her family's cabin. Nothing in that moment suggested what would come next. To everyone around her, she appeared relaxed, sociable, and fully immersed in the joy of a vacation. By 5:30 that same morning, Ron Bradley awoke and stepped onto the cabin balcony. To his relief, Amy was sitting outside. She looked tired but was awake, gazing quietly over the water. She wore only a t-shirt and underwear, not dressed to go anywhere. Ron spoke briefly to her before returning inside to rest. It would be the last confirmed moment anyone in the Bradley family saw her. Within half an hour, when the rest of the family awoke, Mai was gone. At first, the family searched the immediate areas they thought she might have wandered to. The pool deck, the lounges, the corridors. Her shoes were still in the cabin. Her purse, wallet, and identification had been left behind. She had taken only her cigarettes and lighter, items she carried out of habit. Panic grew as each minute passed. Amy was not someone who would go ashore without a word, nor would she leave without the essentials she would need. The family quickly informed crew members, but the response they received was less than urgent. Several staff members suggested she might have chosen to disembark voluntarily in Curacao. This idea was almost insulting to her parents, who knew their daughter's habits and character intimately. Still, instead of making immediate ship-wide announcements or sealing exits, the crew hesitated. Hours slipped by before any formal search began. The Rhapsody of the Seas eventually sailed away from Curacao, its engines humming as it pushed toward the next destination, but the most critical window for locating Amy had already closed. If she had gone overboard near the island, there was no chance of survival by then. And if she had been taken ashore, she was now far away from the vessel that might have held the key to finding her. Those lost hours remain one of the most painful aspects of the case. a period where swift action might have changed everything. In the days that followed, troubling witness accounts began to emerge. Several passengers recalled seeing a woman who matched Amy's description early that morning, around the time her father last saw her. One man described spotting her near an elevator, accompanied by someone who looked like a crew member. She appeared distressed. Another reported sighting placed her on a different deck, though details conflicted and the ship's security team never followed up. These fragments of testimony raised more questions than answers, hinting that Amy's disappearance may not have been a simple case of falling overboard. Attention soon turned to the people Amy had spent her final hours with, the musicians of the Blue Orchid Band. Witnesses remembered how the bassist, known by the nickname Yellow, seemed particularly focused on Amy during that last night. He was said to have been overly persistent, paying her attention that bordered on uncomfortable. When investigators sought to question him, they discovered he had already disembarked at Curaçao, the exact port where Amy vanished. The timing looked suspicious. The other band members offered vague, inconsistent accounts of the evening, adding to the sense that something sinister had happened. As months passed, hope seemed to dim, until shocking reports began surfacing of alleged sightings. In August 1998, just 5 months after Amy vanished, Canadian tourist David Carmichael was approached on a Curaçao beach by a frantic young woman. According to him, she said, "Please help me. My name is Amy Bradley. I was taken from a cruise ship." Before he could act, 2 men appeared and pulled her away. The memory of her desperate eyes never left him. A year later, a U.S. Navy sailor named David Meat claimed he encountered Amy in a Curaçao brothel. He said she identified herself directly and begged him not to leave her there. What struck him most were her tattoos, the Tasmanian devil on her shoulder, a gecko on her navel, and another design on her ankle, details that perfectly matched Amy's. When he returned with reinforcements, the woman was gone. Over the following years, more alleged sightings trickled in. Each account suggested the same terrifying possibility. Amy had not drowned, but had been abducted, smuggled ashore, and forced into human trafficking. In the late 1990s, the Caribbean was rife with organized crime operations, particularly in ports where cruise ships routinely stopped. The idea that Amy might have been targeted on board and sold into captivity was horrifying but increasingly difficult to dismiss. The Bradley family refused to give up. They poured their savings into private investigators, contacted international law enforcement, and tirelessly circulated Amy's photo and information. Their dedication drew media attention, but every lead seemed to collapse into another dead end. The FBI eventually categorized Amy's case as an open missing person investigation rather than a presumed drowning, acknowledging the credibility of the abduction theory. In 2005, the family increased the reward for information leading to her safe return to $250,000, one of the largest amounts ever placed on a missing person case. Meanwhile, Royal Caribbean faced public backlash. Critics accused the company of valuing its schedule and reputation over the safety of its passengers. Questions arose about why surveillance footage was limited, why there were blind spots in security coverage, and why the crew delayed their response. The company eventually settled privately with the Bradley family, but for many, the gesture did little to erase the perception of negligence. For Ron, Iva, and Brad, the years since have been marked by an agonizing cycle of hope and despair. Every phone call could be a tip. Every new lead could be the one that brings Amy home. Yet the trail has remained frustratingly cold. For all the sightings and theories, no one has been able to bring definitive proof of what happened to her. Was she truly taken into a trafficking network? Did she somehow leave the ship under her own power and become trapped in a situation she could not escape? Or did something darker occur on the vessel itself, hidden beneath the layers of music, celebration, and luxury? Amy's disappearance has become a case study in maritime security failures. Cruise ships exist in a strange limbo of international waters where jurisdiction is blurred, responsibility is diffused, and time is often squandered. Investigations are complicated by transient passengers and crew who may never be found again once the ship docks. Surveillance systems, often outdated, leave gaps where vital evidence could be lost. For the average traveler, this hidden vulnerability is invisible. until a tragedy like Amy's forces it into the light. Today, more than 25 years later, Amy Lynn Bradley remains missing. Her family continues to believe she is alive somewhere, held against her will, waiting to be found. For them, every anniversary is another reminder of absence, another year of questions with no answers. Their daughter, their sister, vanished from a ship full of thousands of people, and still no one has been able to explain how or why. Her story is no longer just her family's tragedy. It has become a chilling reminder to the world that even in the most beautiful places, surrounded by laughter and sunlight, darkness can strike suddenly. Cruise ships may promise paradise, but Amy's case proves that paradise can conceal danger and that safety is never guaranteed, even on the calmest seas. Some mysteries resist resolution, leaving only silence, unanswered questions, and the endless ache of wondering what became of the one who vanished into the night. Among the most harrowing aspects of cruise ship disasters are those that involve passengers falling overboard. Incidents that turn a luxurious vacation into a desperate fight against time, where every passing minute can mean the difference between life and death. The vast ocean becomes both witness and executioner, swallowing victims in its endless depths while families watch helplessly from the deck above. One case that illustrates the devastating consequences of inadequate safety protocols and delayed responses is the tragedy of Emily Preston aboard the Oceanic Horizon. A case that would expose shocking negligence and ultimately lead to one of the largest maritime injury settlements in cruise industry history. Emily Preston was a 43-year-old marketing director from Pennsylvania who had boarded the Oceanic Horizon with her husband, David, for what was meant to be a relaxing Caribbean getaway in March 2014. Emily was known among friends and family as vibrant, adventurous, and someone who embraced life fully. She had been eagerly anticipating this trip for months, having spent the previous year consumed by a high-stakes corporate merger. The cruise was meant not only for relaxation, but also to celebrate their 16th wedding anniversary. The couple had booked a balcony cabin on Deck 12, enjoying the ocean views and private outdoor space that made their stateroom feel like a luxurious retreat. For the first 4 days, everything went smoothly. Emily and David attended shows, enjoyed elaborate dinners, and spent hours on their balcony watching the endless Caribbean waters. Fellow passengers described the couple as joyful and deeply in love, often seen holding hands along the ship's promenades or laughing together poolside. On the 5th night, as the ship sailed between Jamaica and Grand Cayman, the couple attended the ship's formal dinner, followed by a comedy performance in the main theater. Witnesses later testified that both Emily and David had been drinking moderately throughout the evening, enough to relax, but not excessively. After the show, they returned to their cabin around 11:30 p.m., planning a nightcap on their balcony under the stars. What followed would be reconstructed from witness statements, security footage, and David's traumatized account. They had been seated on their balcony furniture, sharing a bottle of wine from room service, when Emily stood to get a better view of what she thought were dolphins in the distance. The balcony railing measured 42 inches, technically meeting international safety standards, but lower than the railings on most modern cruise ships built after 2010. According to David, Emily leaned against the railing, pointing excitedly at something in the water when she suddenly lost her balance. Whether due to alcohol, a brief dizzy spell, or a tragic misjudgment of her center of gravity, Emily plunged over the railing. David recalled the sickening moment he realized she was falling and his desperate attempt to grab her, hearing the horrifying splash as she hit the ocean 7 decks below. David screamed for help while fumbling for the emergency phone in their cabin. His cries alerted nearby passengers who quickly called ship security. Within minutes, crew members arrived to find David in complete hysteria, repeatedly yelling that his wife had fallen overboard. According to ship logs, the first emergency call reached the bridge at 12:47 a.m. The most damning aspect of the subsequent lawsuit was the ship's delayed response. Despite David's immediate report, the Oceanic Horizon did not initiate an emergency stop or turn around for nearly 90 minutes. Maritime safety experts later testified that in man-overboard situations, every minute is critical. In the first 15 minutes, survival chances are relatively high if the victim is conscious and wearing a life jacket. After 30 minutes, hypothermia becomes a significant risk. After 60 minutes, survival drops below 20%. Investigators determined that the delay was due to a catastrophic breakdown in emergency procedures. The night duty officer who received the initial report doubted its severity, suspecting a domestic dispute rather than a genuine overboard incident. Precious time was lost interviewing David and reviewing security footage instead of alerting the bridge. When the captain was finally notified at 1:15 a.m., an emergency turn was ordered and rescue boats dispatched. Coast Guard units from Jamaica joined the search, coordinated with aircraft and nearby ships, but by then, Emily had been in the water nearly 90 minutes, in darkness, with water temperatures around 78 degrees Celsius and moderate seas, making her almost impossible to spot. The search spanned 14 hours, covering over 200 square miles. Coast Guard helicopters used thermal imaging, ships combed grid patterns, and the oceanic horizon remained in the search zone. Yet no trace of Emily was ever found. No body, no personal items, nothing to suggest she had survived the initial impact or stayed afloat. The investigation revealed shocking inadequacies in the cruise line's emergency protocols. Internal emails uncovered during the lawsuit showed minimal crew training for man-overboard incidents, with many officers unsure of proper procedures. The delay was not just one person's error, but a systemic failure of communication, training, and preparedness. Even more disturbing was that the oceanic horizon had experienced 3 previous overboard incidents in the 2 years prior, all with delayed responses and unrecovered victims. Safety experts noted that Carnival, the company operating the ship, had consistently prioritized schedules and comfort over emergency readiness. David Preston filed a lawsuit against Carnival Corporation seeking $10 million for negligence, inadequate safety measures, and delayed response. Depositions revealed former crew members' damning testimony about the company's disregard for safety, poorly maintained rescue equipment, and a culture of avoiding safety reports to prevent delays or costs. The tragedy also highlighted broader industry concerns with balcony safety. Emily fell from a railing meeting 1990s international standards, deemed insufficient for modern ships with thousands of passengers. Statistics showed balcony falls accounted for nearly 30% of cruise fatalities, with alcohol involved in over 60% of cases. Initially, Carnival argued that Emily's death was a tragic accident caused by her own actions. However, evidence and expert testimony showed she might have survived the fall if proper emergency procedures had been followed. The 90-minute delay was widely criticized as inexcusable, and the repeated prior incidents indicated systemic negligence. In March 2016, just before trial, Carnival settled for an undisclosed sum, reportedly exceeding $8 million, agreeing to higher balcony railings, enhanced crew training, improved emergency response, and third-party safety audits. David Preston used part of the settlement to establish the Emily Preston Maritime Safety Foundation, advocating for better cruise ship safety and assisting families affected by maritime accidents. The 7-deck plunge remains a stark reminder of how corporate negligence can turn a preventable accident into a fatal tragedy. Emily Preston's story continues to save lives through industry reforms, ensuring other families might be spared the devastating loss that forever changed David Preston's world. Working aboard a cruise ship is often portrayed as an adventure, a dream job filled with travel, camaraderie, and endless stories from the open sea. To the passengers, it seems like a world of glittering decks, fine dining, and endless entertainment, where every detail is carefully controlled. But beneath the surface of this floating paradise lies a reality that few ever glimpse, a world of strict hierarchies, long hours, and hidden dangers that can strike in an instant. For one officer, whose identity remains anonymous for safety reasons, That danger came in the form of a gunshot ricocheting across the navigation bridge, nearly ending his life and exposing the unpredictable hazards faced by crew members on international voyages. It was just after midnight when the Carnival-sized vessel, carrying thousands of passengers, approached a politically tense port known for occasional unrest. Ports in such regions often deploy specialized Coast Guard or military personnel to monitor maritime traffic and maintain security. The ship's officers were trained for medical emergencies, fires, mechanical failures, and even rare maritime incidents. But few ever anticipate a live firearm being discharged on board. The anonymous officer, a young crew member responsible for navigating and assisting with ship operations, was about to learn this lesson in the most terrifying way. A team of local officials, appearing as Coast Guard personnel, boarded the ship under the guise of a routine safety inspection. Access to the navigation bridge, one of the ship's most secure areas, is normally restricted to senior officers and specialized crew. Standard protocol requires that any visiting authority be accompanied by at least 2 ship officers at all times. The inspection began like any other. Polite greetings, verification of paperwork, short interviews, and the careful scanning of navigation logs. For a time, the atmosphere remained calm, almost banal. A procedural obligation meant to ensure compliance with local maritime regulations. Then, without warning, a deafening crack shattered the stillness. A gunshot rang out inside the navigation bridge. The sound echoed off metal walls and reinforced glass, a sharp intrusion in a room usually dominated by the hum of instruments and the quiet voice of officers communicating with the deck. The bullet, fired by one of the visiting officials, struck the steel framing of a window and ricocheted with terrifying force, coming perilously close to the young officer's head before grazing his neck and embedding itself into a control panel. What had been a routine inspection instantly became a scene of chaos. Alarms blared, crew members rushed to provide first aid, and the ship's captain sprinted toward the bridge. The officer lay bleeding on the floor, conscious but shaken, aware that a fraction of an inch had saved him from fatal injury. The visiting officials insisted the incident was accidental, a misfire caused by mishandling a firearm. But for the crew, it was no accident. It was a stark demonstration of how fragile the sense of safety could be on a vessel traversing international waters, even in controlled areas. Passengers, sleeping in their cabins, were unaware of the crisis unfolding just above them. The cruise line issued no announcement, and the event was contained behind closed doors. For hours, the officer received treatment from the ship's medical team, his neck bandaged, his body stabilized. Meanwhile, senior management debated how to handle the situation, balancing medical care, legal liability, and the ship's reputation. The bullet, later retrieved from the electronics panel, provided evidence of the danger. Yet the company strongly discouraged any discussion among crew, emphasizing discretion and minimizing the incident. Even after recovery, the psychological impact lingered. The officer wrote about sleepless nights, anxiety during routine duties, and an increasing fear whenever the ship docked at unfamiliar or politically unstable ports. Eventually, the trauma drove him to leave the cruise industry entirely, a decision that was as much about preserving mental health as about personal safety. His story, later shared anonymously on Reddit, resonated with thousands of current and former crew members, many of whom recounted similar incidents: inspections gone wrong, confrontations with armed port officials, near misses with knives and improvised weapons, and repeated exposure to hazards hidden from passengers. Maritime law further complicates such incidents. Cruise ships operate under the jurisdiction of their flag state, adhere to international conventions, and must comply with local laws of ports they visit. Conflicting regulations and unclear responsibilities often leave crew members exposed to both danger and bureaucratic ambiguity. In the case of the ricocheting bullet, the officer discovered that his official injury report minimized the incident, describing only minor trauma and omitting the firearm discharge entirely. Such documentation, while legally sufficient, obscures the reality of what transpired, leaving crew vulnerable and without full recourse. The incident sparked widespread discussion among maritime safety circles and advocacy groups. Experts recommended strict protocols for port visits, including mandatory firearm checks, sealed weapons unless explicitly required, and complete documentation of all inspections. Calls were made for security cameras to record every moment of visits, ensuring accountability and transparency. Some argued that only a limited number of officers should accompany external officials, while others demanded international standardization for INSP actions to prevent similar accidents. Despite the attention, risks remain pervasive, particularly in lower-income ports where regulations may be unevenly enforced. Local authorities sometimes exercise discretion that crew cannot anticipate, bringing unpredictability to every docking. For the crew, the ocean is not just a workplace. It is a dynamic environment where beauty coexists with danger, and where a single misstep, intentional or accidental, can become life-threatening. For passengers, these realities are almost entirely invisible. They see entertainment, dining, and organized excursions. They are rarely aware of the constant vigilance required by crew to maintain safety, not just from natural elements, but from human factors both on board and in port. The officer's story serves as a rare window into this hidden world, a reminder that the seamless experience enjoyed by guests depends on the courage, skill, and endurance of those who face the unseen hazards daily. Ultimately, the bullet that ricocheted is more than a story of a near-death experience. It is a testament to the fragility of safety in an environment often presumed secure. For the young officer, it was a moment that redefined his career, altered his life, and revealed the stark vulnerability of cruise personnel. For the industry, it became a cautionary tale, prompting discussions about protocol, training, and the unseen risks inherent in global maritime operations. And for those who hear this story, it stands as a chilling reminder that beneath the luxury, laughter, and lights of a cruise ship lies a world where danger can strike silently, suddenly, and with consequences that echo long after the seas have calmed. This story takes us aboard the vast majestic Horizon during a 7-day Eastern Caribbean cruise departing from Fort Lauderdale, where a veteran bartender named Ethan Cole would encounter ordering patterns that beverage management specialists and maritime security investigators are still struggling to explain. Ethan had been working cruise ship beverage operations for over 9 years, managing bar service and cocktail preparation across Carnival Cruise Lines and Holland America Line. He held certifications in responsible alcohol service, advanced mixology, and guest hospitality protocols, serving thousands of passengers annually across Atlantic and Caribbean routes. What he discovered at the Tranquility Bar on Deck 12 during what should have been routine evening service would completely upend his understanding of passenger identification systems, beverage tracking, and the very reality of who was sitting at his bar. This incident is documented in Carnival employment records, beverage sales tracking systems, U.S. Coast Guard passenger manifests, and cross-verified with FBI maritime jurisdiction investigation reports. Ethan begins his story. I'm a 33-year-old bartender from Tampa, Florida. I've spent the last 9 years working cruise ship bars, everything from poolside tiki lounges to elegant piano bars. In that time, I thought I'd seen every type of passenger and drinking pattern imaginable, until the Montgomery party came aboard during our February 2025 sailing. It was February 12th, 2025. On our 7-day Eastern Caribbean route from Fort Lauderdale to St. Thomas in Barbados, the ship carried 3,982 passengers at near full capacity. According to the guest services system, the Montgomery party consisted of 4 adults from Phoenix, Arizona: James Montgomery, 42, his wife Susan, 40, their friends Robert Lang, 44, and his wife Diane, 41. They had booked 2 adjoining balcony suites on Deck 9 and purchased the premium beverage package, celebrating James's promotion to senior partner at his law firm. The Tranquility Bar, located aft on Deck 12, is an adults-only venue featuring craft cocktails, premium spirits, and panoramic ocean views. The beverage tracking system automatically logs every drink order via passenger sale and sign cards, monitoring consumption limits, preferences, and spending patterns. Each transaction requires a card scan, signature verification, and automatic photo capture for security purposes. The Montgomery party first visited Ethan's bar on February 13th at about 7:30 p.m., ordering premium martinis and aged whiskey cocktails. James requested a Grey Goose martini, Susan ordered a Cosmopolitan, Robert had Macallan 18 neat, and Diane chose a mojito with top-shelf rum. Standard orders for guests on unlimited beverage packages. Ethan served their drinks, processed their cards, and noted their preferences for future visits. They seemed relaxed and happy, discussing their shore excursions in St. Thomas and planning dinner reservations. On February 14th, at exactly 7:30 p.m., the Montgomery party returned, ordering the identical drinks in the same sequence. Their cards processed successfully. This pattern continued for 4 consecutive evenings. Always seated at the same corner table with ocean views, repeating identical conversations, discussing shore excursions as if experiencing them for the first time. On February 16th, Ethan tried to engage them. "You really enjoyed St. Thomas, didn't you?" he said. James looked confused. "St. Thomas? We just arrived yesterday. This is our first port day." But according to the beverage system, they had been ordering drinks for 4 nights straight, and the ship's itinerary confirmed St. Thomas had been visited 3 days prior. Ethan alerted his beverage manager, Clara Simmons, with over a decade supervising cruise ship bar operations. Clara reviewed the sales tracking system and discovered something that violated every protocol. The Montgomery party's cards showed purchases simultaneously at 3 other bars: the pool deck bar, the sports bar, and the wine spirits lounge, at exactly 7:30 p.m. each evening, while they were physically sitting at Ethan's bar. Clara immediately contacted guest services. Manager Daniel Cho confirmed the Montgomery suites on Deck 9 showed no key card activity since embarkation, and housekeeping reported untouched rooms with unslept beds. Yet the beverage system confirmed nightly purchases throughout the ship. Ship security, led by La Chief Maria Delgado, investigated further. Surveillance footage revealed something impossible. The same 4 people sitting at tables in 4 different bars simultaneously, ordering identical drinks, making identical gestures, repeating the same conversations. Facial recognition confirmed the matches, yet the physical impossibility defied all logic. Medical staff, including Dr. Lauren Park, monitored the group discreetly. Vital signs showed no heartbeat, no respiration, and no detectable body temperature. Yet they sat interacting, laughing, and drinking. Thermal imaging showed no heat signatures. Audio equipment detected voices, but no identifiable source. Captain Baton Natalie Ruiz briefed corporate security, who dispatched investigators via helicopter within 6 hours. Beverage data, POS equipment, and surveillance footage were confiscated. Every bar staff member involved signed confidentiality agreements under threat of termination and legal action. The official report classified it as a system malfunction, causing duplicate sales and false customer data. But when corporate investigators contacted Phoenix to verify the parties' identities, a chilling truth emerged. James Montgomery, Susan Montgomery, Robert Lang, and Diane Lang had died 6 months earlier in a car crash on Interstate 17. Yet someone, or something using their identities, had been ordering premium cocktails for 5 consecutive nights, running up charges across multiple bars on the ship. Similar reports came from bartenders on All Norwegian Escape and All Royal Caribbean, Independence of the Seas, describing the same 4 individuals ordering identical drinks at 7:30 p.m. each night. Ethan eventually transferred to daytime bar service. He avoids intimate evening bars now. Yet sometimes, during quiet shifts, he notices 4 empty chairs at the corner table, subtle indentations in the cushions, and cocktail napkins with moisture rings from drinks he never served. The next day, the The beverage system reports phantom transactions, always authorized using cards belonging to the deceased Montgomery party. This account has been cross-verified with Majestic Horizon employment records, beverage system documentation, Arizona DMV death certificates, and corporate security files. Ethan Cole continues working for Carnival Cruise Line, but has never publicly discussed the incident until now. The story remains a chilling reminder. Sometimes the luxury and order of cruise life conceal mysteries that defy all explanation. Patrons you think you see might not truly be alive, and the ghosts of the past, for reasons unknown, may still be ordering drinks at your bar every night at the same time. Cruise ships are often marketed as floating paradises, places where the worries of everyday life dissolve into the endless horizon. But behind the glossy brochures and the illusion of carefree luxury, a darker reality sometimes lurks. One where isolation, human frailty, and the law's complexities collide in terrifying ways. Few cases illustrate this stark contrast better than the tragic story of Camila, a young woman whose life was brutally cut short aboard a Mediterranean cruise, a murder that would expose the vulnerabilities of passengers and the blind spots in maritime safety. Camila, a 28-year-old woman from South America, had boarded the cruise with her boyfriend Marcus, a man she had known for 2 years. Those closest to her described the relationship as passionate yet volatile, full of romantic highs but marred by jealousy and recurring arguments. Despite warnings from friends and family about Marcus's controlling tendencies, Camila had hoped the cruise would offer a reprieve, a chance to reconnect and perhaps salvage the relationship. Social media posts before departure showed her radiant and excited, dressed in flowing sundresses and beaming with anticipation for a transformative week at sea. They had booked an interior cabin on Deck 5 of a large vessel carrying over 3,000 passengers. Initially, the couple appeared to be enjoying themselves. Other passengers reported seeing them dining together, attending evening shows, and participating in group activities. Yet beneath the surface, tension simmered. Crew members later testified that they had observed heated arguments in the corridors, raised voices emanating from their cabin, and on one occasion, noticed bruises on Camila's upper arm, consistent with someone being grabbed forcefully. Small, almost invisible warning signs, which would ultimately go unheeded, had begun to surface. On the fourth night, while the ship sailed through calm waters between Italian ports, tragedy struck. Around 3 a.m., a retired nurse named Patricia, staying in an adjacent cabin, reported hearing a sudden commotion, furniture being overturned, muffled shouting, and then an eerie silence that lingered in the hallways. Patricia later admitted that she had considered calling ship security, but hesitated, assuming it was just another argument between the couple. This decision, seemingly small at the time, would become a haunting detail in the investigation that followed. The next morning, when Camila did not appear for breakfast and failed to respond to repeated knocks from housekeeping, crew members used a master key to enter the cabin. What they discovered would shock even the most seasoned maritime investigators. Camila's body was hanging from a makeshift noose fashioned from bed sheets attached to a ceiling fixture near the bathroom. Marcus was seated on the cabin floor, appearing distraught, claiming he had found her lifeless and that she had previously expressed suicidal thoughts. He showed investigators her cell phone, citing messages allegedly sent to friends expressing hopelessness and self-harm. Initially, the scene suggested suicide. The captain secured the area, alerted cruise headquarters, and contacted maritime authorities. Jurisdiction, however, was complicated. The ship was in international waters, registered under Panama, the victim was Colombian, and Marcus held dual citizenship in Argentina and Spain. International law would prove to be a labyrinthine obstacle as the investigation progressed. The ship's doctor, acting as the first medical examiner, quickly noted inconsistencies. While asphyxiation appeared to be the immediate cause of death, bruising on Camila's neck indicated manual strangulation, patterns consistent with fingers rather than a smooth cord. Defensive wounds on her hands and traces of unknown DNA under her fingernails suggested a struggle. The ceiling fixture could not have supported her weight, and blood spatter patterns indicated violent movement inconsistent with hanging. Forensic analysis of the bed sheets revealed they had likely been tied after death, evidence that someone had attempted to stage a scene. As the news of Camilla's death spread, multiple passengers came forward with chilling accounts of Marcus's behavior. A bartender testified to witnessing his aggressive comments toward women and excessive drinking during the voyage. Neighbors recalled overhearing threats from Marcus, including statements like, "I'll kill you before I let you leave me." Perhaps most hauntingly, a friend of Camilla's revealed that she had confided fears of Marcus's escalating behavior and intended to end the relationship upon returning home. The investigation deepened when security footage from the ship was examined. Cameras captured Marcus leaving the cabin at 2:47 a.m., carrying what appeared to be bloodied towels. 20 minutes later, he returned to the cabin, allegedly having disposed of items in a laundry chute. When recovered, these items contained Camilla's blood and fragments of Marcus's torn clothing, corroborating the presence of a struggle in the cabin. Despite overwhelming evidence, legal complications delayed justice. The overlapping jurisdictions required months of negotiation, as multiple countries vied to assert authority. Marcus remained in custody but uncharged, a limbo that added tension and complexity to the proceedings. During this time, his defense argued that Camilla had indeed attempted suicide, claiming blood on towels came from his efforts to save her and that defensive wounds were self-inflicted during her final moments. They portrayed him as panicked and desperate, attempting to salvage a tragic situation. Digital forensics, however, proved decisive. Analysis of Camilla's phone revealed that the allegedly suicidal messages had been sent after her time of death. Further investigation showed that Marcus's device had accessed searches detailing how to stage a hanging and the mechanics of death by strangulation, information that aligned disturbingly with the scene in the cabin. This evidence dismantled the suicide narrative and confirmed Marcus's involvement in the murder. The case also exposed severe shortcomings in cruise ship safety protocols. Despite reports from passengers about domestic violence, ship security had failed to intervene. Crew members admitted to minimal training for such situations, with no formal procedure for separating abusive couples or providing emergency protection for potential victims. Former crew testified that a culture of willful inaction prevailed, prioritizing the perception of a relaxed, worry-free vacation over the safety of individuals. This environment allowed a dangerous escalation to occur unchecked. Eventually, Marcus was extradited to Italy, where the vessel had been scheduled to dock. The prosecution depicted him as a controlling, violent man who murdered Camilla in a jealous rage, then spent time manipulating the crime scene to simulate suicide. The defense continued to assert that Camilla had taken her own life and that Marcus' actions were misguided attempts to prevent it. After a 3-week trial, the jury deliberated for only 4 hours before delivering a guilty verdict. Marcus was sentenced to life imprisonment, the judge emphasizing both the premeditated nature of the crime and the cruel confinement of the victim. The court noted that the isolation of a cruise ship, combined with the inability of the victim to summon help, amplified the horror of the act. In Camilla's memory, her family established a foundation dedicated to domestic violence awareness and improving maritime safety. Their advocacy led to tangible reforms, including enhanced crew training, mandatory reporting of domestic violence incidents, and the installation of panic buttons in cabins, a measure now credited with preventing further tragedies at sea. Camilla's story serves as a sobering reminder that luxury and security aboard a cruise ship are often illusions. Behind the facade of endless entertainment and pristine decks, human nature can reveal its darkest side. Isolation amplifies vulnerability, and even minor lapses in vigilance can have catastrophic consequences. The case remains one of the most disturbing in cruise ship history, not only for the brutality of the act itself, but for the systemic failures that allowed it to occur. It underscores the critical importance of vigilance, proper training, and timely intervention. Passengers may assume that their environment is controlled and safe, but Camilla's story illustrates how quickly that illusion can shatter. The paradise of the high seas can, in moments, transform into a theater of horror, where the consequences of violence are magnified by isolation, and the distance from law enforcement turns a personal tragedy into a global legal and ethical nightmare. Even years later, the echoes of Camilla's murder linger across the cruise industry. Crew members, passengers, and regulatory bodies have had to confront uncomfortable truths about safety, intervention, and the moral responsibilities inherent in managing isolated, high-stakes environments. While reforms have been implemented, the case remains a chilling example of how quickly control can slip away, how rapidly a vacation can descend into tragedy, and how essential vigilance, compassion, and legal oversight are in preventing future horrors. In the end, the story of Camila is more than just a murder. It is a testament to the dangers of isolation, the fragility of life, and the need for systemic change in environments where the ordinary rules of society and law are strained by the sea. Her death, horrific as it was, sparked reforms that have undoubtedly saved lives, but it also serves as a permanent reminder that even the most controlled and luxurious spaces can hide unimaginable danger. Beneath the glossy surface of every cruise brochure, behind the cheerful slogans promising luxury, adventure, and unforgettable memories, lies a reality that very few passengers ever imagine. It is a reality of fragile human bodies, medical emergencies, and sometimes death in the middle of the ocean, where the nearest hospital is hundreds of miles away. For Robert Jones and his family, what was supposed to be a joyful reunion aboard the Carnival Dream in August 2020 turned into an ordeal so horrifying that it would later shake public trust in the cruise industry and expose a disturbing truth about how passenger deaths are handled at sea. Robert Jones was 78 years old, but anyone who met him would tell you that age was just a number in his case. He was known for his energy, his booming laugh, and the way he could light up a room just by walking in. His grandchildren adored him, his daughter Sarah admired his humor and strength, and his wife still danced with him like they were teenagers in love. After months of pandemic separation, the Jones family boarded the Carnival Dream with excitement. They were ready to celebrate birthdays, reconnect, and enjoy the comfort of a floating city that promised relaxation and security. For Robert, this voyage was a chance to create memories with his family, the kind that would live on long after he was gone. But no one expected that his long after would begin so suddenly. On the second night of the voyage, after a festive dinner filled with laughter and playful jokes, Robert began to complain of chest pain. At first, the family dismissed it as heartburn from overeating, but then his condition worsened within seconds. In the small carpeted cabin surrounded by his loved ones, Robert collapsed. Chaos erupted. His daughter screamed for help while his wife tried desperately to shake him awake. Within minutes, the Carnival D. Ream's medical team arrived, equipped with emergency gear. For several tense moments, the cabin became a scene of frantic resuscitation efforts. CPR compressions, oxygen masks, the crackle of a defibrillator charging, the sharp smell of antiseptic. But despite every attempt, Robert's body gave in. The doctor finally pronounced him dead. The grief that washed over the family was crushing. Sarah Jones later recalled how the cabin felt like it was closing in on them, the cheerful sounds of music and laughter from other parts of the ship a cruel contrast to the silence in their room. A crew member, speaking in hushed tones, assured them that the ship had a state-of-the-art morgue. Robert's body, they promised, would be treated with dignity and respect until the ship docked. In the numbness of shock, Sarah clung to that assurance. The family believed their father and husband would be taken to a secure, refrigerated facility designed for precisely this kind of tragic event. They had no reason to doubt it. After all, cruise lines deal with deaths at sea more often than most passengers realize, and procedures are supposed to be in place. But what the Jones family did not know was that those procedures would not be followed, and what happened instead would leave them scarred forever. According to court documents later filed in the United States, Carnival staff approached the family not long after Robert's death with a question that, in hindsight, seems almost unbelievable. They asked whether they wanted Robert placed in the ship's morgue or in what they called an alternative storage space. Distraught, overwhelmed, and not in a position to question authority, The family agreed to what was presented as a reasonable option. They had no idea that this so-called alternative was not a morgue at all, but a drinks cooler used by the crew to store beverages. For 6 days, as the Carnival Dream sailed from one port to another, Robert's body was left inside this crew drinks cooler. The space was cluttered with stacked beverage crates, supplies, and constant foot traffic. Crew members came in and out, restocking sodas, juices, and alcohol, while Robert's body lay there, ignored and unmonitored. The cooler's temperature fluctuated between 40 and 50 degrees Fahrenheit, far too warm to prevent decomposition. The minimum safe storage temperature for a body should be close to 32 degrees, but in this cooler, conditions were inconsistent, sometimes warm enough to accelerate the breakdown of human tissue. Robert was not protected from the ravages of time and biology. He was surrounded by the casual activity of everyday work, reduced to something less than human. By the time the ship finally docked in Galveston, Texas, the Jones family was devastated all over again. When they went to the funeral home expecting to see their father's body prepared for burial, they were instead confronted with a sight too horrific to describe in full. Robert's remains had decomposed severely. His skin was discolored, blackened in places, swollen in others. Fluids had leaked, the stench of rot clung to him, and his condition was so advanced that the funeral home recommended a closed casket. The family could not even say goodbye to him properly. Sarah later said that the moment she saw what Carnival had done to her father was the moment her grief turned to fury. When the Jones family demanded answers, Carnival staff responded with vague excuses. Some suggested there were unexpected circumstances at sea, while others avoided giving details altogether. But as the family pressed further, consulting with medical examiners and the funeral director, the truth surfaced. Robert Jones had never been placed in the ship's morgue. Instead, his body had been left in a drinks cooler, treated no better than perishable cargo. News of this case spread quickly once the family filed a lawsuit. Court documents described Carnival's actions as reckless, outrageous, and grossly negligent. They accused the company of violating maritime laws and disregarding the dignity of the deceased. The Jones family sought $1 million in damages, but for them, money was not the real issue. What they wanted was accountability, recognition of the horror they had endured, and assurance that no other family would face the same fate. Carnival, in its official statements, expressed remorse but denied wrongdoing. The company argued that the staff had acted under unusual circumstances, citing pandemic-era port restrictions as a factor. They insisted that their facilities met international standards and claimed that storing Robert in the cooler was an attempt to act respectfully when the morgue was allegedly unavailable. But privately, crew members and former Carnival employees painted a different picture. They revealed that the use of non-morgue spaces for storing bodies was not an isolated incident, but part of an informal pattern when the official morgue filled up. Some described bodies being stored in luggage compartments, food storage areas, or even wrapped in plastic and placed on linen carts. Cruise insiders admitted that deaths at sea happen more often than passengers realize, especially on long voyages that attract elderly travelers. Ships are required to have morgues, but these morgues are often small, sometimes holding as few as 3 bodies. When more people die, and they sometimes do, staff are forced to improvise. That improvisation can mean placing the dead in spaces that were never meant for human remains. The Jones case struck a nerve. Passengers and crew members began sharing their own stories online, from Reddit threads to industry forums. Some spoke of the cold box, a slang term for the drinks cooler, as a place everyone avoided because of the unease it inspired. Others recounted being asked to help move bodies despite having no training, wrapping them in multiple layers of plastic as if that could replace proper mortuary care. The lawsuit drew the attention of federal investigators. The U.S. Department of Transportation and the Coast Guard reviewed logs, refrigeration records, and internal emails. Their findings suggested that Carnival Dream had indeed used improper storage for bodies on previous voyages as well. The lack of standardized procedures was identified as a serious problem, one that jeopardized not just dignity but also health and safety. Imagine the risk of contamination, of spoiled beverages mingling with the odor and bacteria of human decay. all while crew members carried on with daily tasks. For the Jones family, the trauma was profound. Sarah Jones told the court that nightmares haunted her, visions of her father lying among soda crates and beer bottles instead of resting in peace. The betrayal cut deeply. They had trusted Carnival with their lives, and instead they were forced to carry home a memory of horror that overshadowed every happy moment of the voyage. Even as Carnival made promises to improve, pledging better morgue facilities, stricter temperature monitoring, and mandatory crew training, the damage was already done. Industry watchdogs warned that reforms often come only after lawsuits and scandals. And while some ships have since expanded their morgue capacity, experts caution that the problem is far from solved. Death is a certainty on the sea, but respect for the dead is not. Robert Jones's story now stands as a grim reminder for an young boarding a cruise ship. Behind the sparkle of luxury and the promise of paradise, there is a hidden infrastructure that most passengers never see. When that infrastructure fails, families are left not just to grieve, but to grapple with horror and betrayal. The Jones family wanted to celebrate life, but they were instead forced to confront death in the most undignified way imaginable. Their advocacy continues, warning others, demanding transparency, and ensuring that Robert's suffering was not in vain. The morgue nightmare of Robert Jones is not just a personal tragedy. It is a cautionary tale about trust, responsibility, and the darkness that can lurk beneath the shining decks of a cruise ship. It proves that even the most glamorous vacations can hide horrors that no family should ever endure, and it asks a chilling question. When the time comes, will your loved ones be treated with dignity, or will they too become just another secret hidden in the cold shadows of the sea? During a 10-day Mediterranean cruise aboard the Norwegian Epic from Rome to Barcelona, veteran activities coordinator Michelle Davis would uncover participation patterns so inexplicable that event management specialists and maritime security investigators are still struggling to fully explain them. Michelle Davis had been working cruise ship entertainment and activities coordination for 12 years, managing daily programming, guest engagement, and participation across Princess, Holland America, and Norwegian cruise lines. Over her career, she had seen countless unusual behaviors, occasional disputes, and minor administrative anomalies, but nothing like what she encountered on that Mediterranean voyage. Certified in event planning, crowd management, and emergency response protocols, Michelle had coordinated activities for over 22,000 passengers annually across European and Caribbean itineraries. Her job required precision, diligence, and a keen eye for tracking guest satisfaction, attendance, and engagement metrics. But what she discovered during poolside bingo sessions and organized deck games would challenge everything she understood about cruise ship activity systems, guest registration protocols, and even the very nature of who, or what, was participating in her events. This incident was meticulously documented, cross-referenced with Norwegian Cruise Line employment records, onboard activity participation databases, guest services tracking systems, and European Union maritime safety investigation reports. Michelle begins her story. I'm a 34-year-old activities coordinator from Miami Beach, Florida, and I've been working cruise ship entertainment programming for 12 years. I hold certifications in event planning, crowd management, and emergency response protocols. I've organized everything from trivia contests to dance competitions, managing daily activity schedules for ships carrying up to 4,000 passengers and ensuring every demographic has engaging entertainment options. In my 12 years, I thought I understood every type of cruise guest and their participation patterns until I encountered the Hamilton family during our May Mediterranean sailing. It was May 22, 2024. The Norwegian Epic was at full capacity for the 10-day route from Rome to Barcelona, with stops in Naples, Monaco, and Marseille. There were 4,028 passengers aboard, with entertainment venues operating at maximum capacity. According to the guest services system, the Hamilton family from Portland, Oregon, consisted of Gary Hamilton, 52, his wife Patricia, 49, and their daughter Madison, 14. The trip was to celebrate Madison's middle school graduation, their first Mediterranean cruise experience. They had booked standard family packages, which included poolside games, teen club access, family trivia competitions, and priority seating for shows. The Norwegian Epic features multiple entertainment decks with pools, sports courts, and activity areas capable of hosting simultaneous events for different age groups. The onboard activity tracking system, integrated with guest SeaPass cards, automatically records attendance, preferences, and satisfaction ratings for programming improvement and guest services coordination. Each activity required card scanning and, for selected events, digital photography for verification and prize distribution. On May 23rd at 2:00 p.m., the Hamilton family participated in Michelle's poolside bingo session, arriving early to secure seats near the main activity pool on deck 12. Gary purchased the family's bingo cards, Patricia arranged seating, and Madison excitedly anticipated her chance to win prizes. Michelle processed their SeaPass cards successfully and noted their engagement in her guest satisfaction tracking system. They were typicus, first-time cruise guests, enthusiastic, energetic, and fully immersed in the activity. During the session, Madison called out, "Bingo," on game number 4, presenting a valid winning card with the correct pattern. Michelle verified the win, awarded the prize according to protocol, and had a photographer capture the moment for their cruise memories. The following day, May 24th, the family returned at precisely 2:00 p.m., sitting in identical seats, purchasing the exact number of bingo cards, and again participating fully. But something immediately felt unusual. During game number 4, Madison called bingo once more, presenting a winning card with the exact same number sequence as the previous day. Mathematically, this was impossible. Michelle was initially unsure how to proceed, but followed procedure, awarding the prize and logging the anomaly. Over the next 4 days, the pattern repeated. Every day at 2:00 p.m., the Hamilton family sat in the same seats, purchased identical cards, and Madison won game number 4, with the same impossible number sequence. Michelle's unease grew. She adjusted the bingo format on May 27th, announcing coverall bingo with a completely randomized number draw system from a new electronic system designed to prevent repetition. Yet, Madison still called bingo on game number 4, again displaying the identical number sequence. Alarmed, Michelle contacted her entertainment manager, Robert Torres, a 16-year cruise ship veteran. Robert reviewed the participation tracking system and immediately noticed impossible discrepancies. The Hamilton family's SeaPass cards showed simultaneous participation in teen club activities, adult fitness classes, and shore excursions, all at precisely 2:00 p.m., the same time as the poolside bingo sessions. Their daily charges exceeded $200 per day across multiple venues, yet their package limit was $45 per person. Payment systems should have automatically flagged this, but nothing was triggered. Robert escalated the matter to guest services. Manager Lisa Rodriguez confirmed that the Hamilton family's cabin on deck 7 appeared normally occupied, but housekeeping reported inconsistencies. Room service deliveries remained untouched, towels arranged in unusual positions, and cabin temperature fluctuations were recorded that did not align with human occupancy patterns. Ship Security Chief Jennifer Martinez was brought in to investigate. Reviewing the SeaPass data, she discovered records that exceeded technical capabilities, check-ins at venues across opposite ends of the ship, overlapping activity completion times, and prize winnings from events physically impossible to attend simultaneously. Surveillance footage confirmed the worst. The Hamilton family was shown participating simultaneously in multiple locations at 2:00 p.m. every day, wearing identical clothing, interacting identically, and winning prizes with identical expressions and gestures. Facial recognition confirmed positive identification, but the footage violated every law of physics and ship layout constraints. Security requested a full investigation with medical staff present. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Amanda Kim discreetly observed the family during bingo using handheld monitoring equipment. Vital signs, respiratory patterns, and body temperature readings were undetectable, yet the family continued participating normally. Thermal imaging corroborated the lack of heat signatures, and electromagnetic field detectors registered anomalous readings inconsistent with living humans. The ship's captain, Carlos Rodriguez, contacted Norwegian corporate security via satellite. Within 10 hours, 3 corporate investigators boarded via helicopter while the ship was en route from Marseille to Barcelona. They confiscated all participation data, surveillance footage, and registration system equipment related to the Hamilton family. All entertainment staff were required to sign confidentiality agreements under threat of immediate termination and legal prosecution. Officially, the incident was classified as a system malfunction, causing duplicate registration records. Activity charges were reversed, C-Pass cards deactivated, and remaining event registrations canceled. But the deeper investigation revealed a horrifying truth. Contacting Oregon Guest Services confirmed the unthinkable. Gary, Patricia, and Madison Hamilton had died in a car accident 7 months prior, while traveling to finalize their Mediterranean cruise booking. Oregon State Police records verified the collision, yet someone, or something, was using their identities to participate in cruise activities across multiple ships, winning prizes and creating memories that should never have been possible. Subsequent reports from Royal Caribbean's Oasis of the Seas and Celebrity Solstice documented identical phantom participation patterns for the Hamilton family, identical bingo wins, identical seating, identical behaviors across ships and cruise lines. The phenomenon was not isolated, it was recurring, consistent, and inexplicable. Michelle requested a transfer to adult-only programming, seeking unpredictable participation patterns and avoiding repeated family dynamics. Yet she continued to notice subtle signs. Front row chairs with indentations, completed bingo cards with Madison's winning number combinations, and daily reports showing phantom C-Pass authorizations for passengers who had never physically boarded the ship. This account has been meticulously verified through Norwegian Epic employment records, onboard activity participation documentation, Oregon State Police death certificates, and corporate security files. Michelle Davis continues working for Norwegian Cruise Line, but has never publicly discussed the incident until now. The Hamilton family phenomenon remains unexplained, a chilling instance where the boundaries of reality, technology, and mortality intersected on the high seas. It serves as a grim reminder that cruise ships, despite appearing as safe floating cities, conceal enigmas that can defy logic, challenge protocols, and haunt even the most seasoned professionals. Every time Michelle reviews activity participation summaries, those phantom records persist. Every completed bingo card, every C-Pass registration, every impossible simultaneous appearance continues to exist within the digital fabric of the cruise's operations. And sometimes, when the deck is quiet, she feels the faint, unsettling impression that the Hamiltons are still there, celebrating their never-lived vacation in a spectral echo across the Mediterranean waters. This story is a haunting testament to the unexplained anomalies that occur on cruise ships, where identities, reality, and participation can become uncannily detached from the physical world. For Michelle and countless crew members who witnessed the inexplicable, the line between the living and the impossible remains perilously thin. At the state-of-the-art fitness center aboard the Yarsar's Celestial Voyager, during an 8-day Southern Caribbean cruise from Miami to Aruba, veteran fitness coordinator Evan Marshall encountered workout patterns that exercise physiology experts and maritime health investigators are still struggling to explain. Evan had been managing cruise ship fitness operations for over 10 years, overseeing gym equipment, personal training programs, and wellness coordination across Carnival, Princess, and Celebrity cruise lines. Certified in personal training, cardiac rehabilitation, and sports medicine, he had supervised fitness activities for more than 19,000 passengers annually across Caribbean and Mediterranean routes. But what he discovered during the morning workout sessions aboard the celestial Voyager would completely shatter his understanding of passenger tracking systems, biometric monitoring protocols, and the very reality of who was exercising on the equipment he was responsible for maintaining. This incident has been documented through celebrity cruise line employment records, fitness center usage databases, biometric monitoring logs, and cross-verified with U.S. Coast Guard passenger welfare investigations. Evan begins his story. I'm a 37-year-old fitness coordinator from San Diego. I've worked cruise ship wellness centers for a decade, from early morning boot camps to personalized strength training sessions for high-profile guests. I thought I knew every passenger behavior, every pattern of activity, until the Harrington family boarded our June Caribbean sailing. It was June 10, 2025. The celestial Voyager carried 2,950 passengers on an 8-day Southern Caribbean route from Miami to Aruba, stopping at Curacao and Barbados. The Harrington family from Chicago, Illinois consisted of Thomas Harrington, 46, his wife Margaret, 43, and their twin sons, Ethan and Oliver, both 17, celebrating the twins' high school graduation with their first Caribbean cruise experience. They had purchased the premium wellness package, which included unlimited fitness center access, personal training sessions, and access to all sports and activity equipment aboard. The Celestial Voyager's 12,500 square foot fitness center housed state-of-the-art cardio equipment, weight machines, and a free weight area capable of accommodating over 150 guests simultaneously. Its biometric tracking system automatically recorded guest activity via CPAS cards, noting exercise duration, intensity, heart rate, caloric expenditure, and other vital metrics for personalized fitness programming. Each session required card scanning and automatic monitoring of vital signs for safety compliance. The Harrington family first visited the fitness center on a June 11th at 6:00 a.m., arriving early to secure preferred equipment before peak usage. Their workout was typical of fitness-conscious vacationers. Thomas ran 45 minutes on the treadmill at moderate intensity. Margaret used the elliptical to maintain her cardio targets, and the twins worked together on the weight machines for strength training. Evan processed their CPAS cards, adjusted the equipment to their specifications, and monitored their vitals. Heart rates, blood pressure, and oxygen saturation all registered normal for their respective age groups. The following morning, June 12th, the Harringtons returned at precisely 6:00 a.m., using the exact same equipment in the same sequence for the same duration. Their biometric readings, however, began showing anomalies. Thomas's treadmill indicated normal speed and caloric burn, but his heart rate monitor displayed 0. Margaret's elliptical read standard resistance and distance, yet her pulse sensor showed no detectable heartbeat. The twins' weightlifting sessions registered appropriate reps and resistance, yet no respiratory activity or blood pressure changes were recorded. This pattern continued for 5 consecutive mornings. Each session, each identical workout, displayed no detectable vital signs. Yet their exercise data appeared flawless, as if the biometric monitors were recording a perfectly normal human workout. On June 15th, Evan approached Thomas during his treadmill session to assess his running form. He noted that Thomas exhibited no heavy breathing, no sweat patterns, and no signs of physical exertion despite running at 6.5 mph for over 35 minutes. Even after attaching secondary heart rate monitors and backup sensors, readings remained flatlined. Yet Thomas continued running as if fully alive. Evan reported the anomalies to his fitness manager, Lisa Gallagher, with 15 years supervising cruise ship wellness programs. Lisa discovered that the Harrington CPAS cards indicated simultaneous participation in activities across the ship: rock climbing on the sports deck, swimming sessions at the pool, and tennis lessons, all at the exact same time as their fitness center workouts. Equipment usage overlapped in ways physically impossible for human passengers. Daily wellness charges were recorded at over $160 per day across multiple venues. Yet the premium wellness package limited charges to $65 per person daily. The system SaaS would have blocked excess spending, but their CPass cards continued authorizing transactions without restriction. Lisa then contacted guest services. Michael Reyes, the manager, confirmed that the Harrington's balcony suite on Deck 9 showed normal entry logs, but inconsistencies were noted. The room appeared lived in, with exercise clothing and equipment scattered, yet no signs of showering were detected despite apparent daily workouts. Towels remained dry, and humidity sensors showed no increase in air moisture consistent with heavy exercise. Security Chief and Patricia Morales arrived to review the situation. Surveillance footage revealed something impossible. The Harringtons were seen exercising in multiple fitness venues across different decks simultaneously, performing identical routines, wearing the same outfits, repeating identical movements. Facial recognition software confirmed positive matches, yet the footage defied logic, showing the same 4 individuals in locations separated by significant distances at the exact same time. Medical staff, including key Dr. Jennifer Lee, conducted direct observation on June 16th. Advanced monitoring revealed no pulse, no respiration, no body heat, and no metabolic activity. Yet the Harringtons completed full workouts, operating machines requiring strength and coordination. Thermal imaging showed no heat signatures, and electromagnetic field detectors recorded anomalous readings inconsistent with human physiology. Captain David Ramirez was briefed and immediately contacted Celebrity's corporate security. Within 8 hours, 3 corporate investigators arrived via helicopter mid-route. All biometric data, surveillance footage, and fitness equipment logs related to the Harringtons were confiscated. Staff were compelled to sign confidentiality agreements under threat of termination and legal action. Official reports attributed the phenomenon to back and fitness equipment monitoring malfunctions and false biometric readings, reversing wellness charges and deactivating CPass cards. But further investigation revealed something far more disturbing. The Harrington family had died months earlier in a house fire, according to Chicago Fire Department records, while preparing for their Caribbean graduation cruise. Yet, someone or something was exercising in their place each morning, completing routines with flawless technique, generating authentic workout data despite showing no signs of life. Weeks later, fitness coordinators on the Norwegian Escape and our Royal Caribbean Voyager of the Seas reported similar encounters. The same 4 individuals appeared at exactly 6 o'clock a.m., performing identical routines, exhibiting identical biometric anomalies across multiple ships. Evan transferred to daytime programming, avoiding early morning sessions and patrons with repetitive patterns. Yet, during equipment maintenance, he sometimes observed treadmills showing recent use, subtle wear patterns from unseen shoes, water bottles, and towels left behind, items that had never been used by living passengers. Phantom entries continued to appear in activity logs, with CPass cards authorized for the deceased Harrington family. This account has been cross-verified with Celebrity Voyager employment records, fitness center monitoring documentation, Chicago Fire Department death certificates, and corporate security investigation files. Evan Marshall continues to work aboard Celebrity Cruise Line, but has never publicly discussed this incident until now. The story of the Harrington family remains a chilling testament to the unknown forces that may linger aboard luxury cruise liners. Guests may not always be who they appear to be, and the line between reality and the inexplicable can blur in ways even the most experienced professionals cannot fully comprehend. Our story takes us aboard Royal Caribbean's Wonder of the Seas, one of the largest cruise ships in the world, during a 9-day Mediterranean voyage departing from Barcelona. At first, the sailing promised nothing more than luxury, celebration, and unforgettable experiences for nearly 7,000 passengers on board. But deep within the Cascades main dining room, at table number 42, A young dining server named Amanda Foster would encounter a series of events that hospitality management experts, security professionals, and maritime investigators are still trying to explain to this day. Amanda Foster had been working in cruise ship dining services for over 8 years. Originally from Orlando, Florida, she had joined the cruise industry in her early 20s, eager to travel the world and build a career in luxury hospitality. Over the years, she honed her skills not only in fine dining service but also in wine pairing expertise and hospitality crisis management. Her certifications and experience placed her among the most trusted servers in Royal Caribbean's dining program. Amanda was used to handling everything, from intimate anniversary dinners to chaotic family celebrations. She was confident she had seen every kind of passenger behavior imaginable. But nothing in her years of service could have prepared her for what unfolded during that April sailing in 2024. According to Royal Caribbean's employment records, Amanda typically managed up to 12 tables per evening shift. Her job required precision, patience, and unwavering attention to detail. Each evening she worked alongside sommeliers and assistant servers, ensuring guests experienced nothing short of a 5-star meal. To her, Table 42 was simply another assignment, a preferred location on the main floor of Cascades, with sweeping ocean views framed by massive glass panels. Guests often requested the spot months in advance because of its position at the heart of the dining room. For the April voyage, the table was assigned to the Parker family from Denver, Colorado. Royal Caribbean's reservation management system listed the Parkers as Thomas Parker, age 48, his wife Rebecca, age 45, and their teenage son Daniel, 17 years old. They had booked a premium dining package with wine pairings and specialty course selections. Their reservation was locked for the 7:00 p.m. seating throughout the entire 9-day cruise. The notes in the system also revealed they were celebrating Daniel's upcoming high school graduation, a milestone the family clearly wanted to honor in grand fashion. The Parker family embarked in Barcelona on April 14th. Records confirm they checked in at the port at exactly 11:30 a.m., received their SeaPass cards, attended the mandatory safety drill at 4:15 p.m., and confirmed their dining reservations through the ship's mobile app before sail away. Their SeaPass accounts were active with premium beverage packages, specialty restaurant credits, and booked excursions for Monaco, Florence, and Naples. By all appearances, the Parkers were just another American family celebrating an important life event aboard a luxury cruise ship. On the first evening of dining service, April 15th, Amanda prepared Table 42 exactly according to the Parkers' listed preferences. White linens, polished silverware, a fresh orchid centerpiece, and wine glasses set for their pairing menu. At precisely 7:00 p.m., the Parkers arrived. Amanda remembers them as well-dressed, cheerful, and excited. Thomas ordered Mediterranean sea bass with the recommended white wine pairing. Rebecca chose herb-crusted lamb with Chianti, while Daniel requested lobster thermidor with sparkling cider. The meal was smooth, pleasant, and perfectly ordinary. They conversed happily about Daniel's future, expressed satisfaction with every course, and left a generous gratuity. At 9:15 p.m. they departed, promising to see Amanda the following night. But what began as a normal dining assignment soon spiraled into a mystery that no one could explain. On April 16th, the Parkers arrived once again at 7:00 p.m., this time wearing the exact same clothing from the previous evening. Amanda initially dismissed it as coincidence. Some families repeated outfits for formal photographs or because of comfort. But when they placed their orders, her unease grew. Thomas requested Mediterranean sea bass, Rebecca asked for the herb-crusted lamb, and Daniel once again wanted lobster thermidor with sparkling cider. Every detail mirrored the previous night, including their toasts and conversations. Amanda listened as they spoke about Daniel's upcoming graduation, about their excitement for Florence the next day, and about how thrilled they were to finally experience a European cruise. But here lay the problem. Florence had already been visited the day before, April 15th. The itinerary confirmed that the Wonder of the Seas had docked there for a full day, and guest services records showed the Parker family had purchased excursions to the Uffizi Gall, Liri, and the Duomo Cathedral. Yet sitting before Amanda, they insisted this was their first full day at sea, and that Florence was still ahead of them. Amanda's concern deepened as the days passed. For 5 consecutive evenings, the Parkers returned to table 42 at precisely 7 p.m. Each night, they wore identical outfits, ordered identical meals, and engaged in identical conversations, always circling back to Daniel's graduation and the trips they were looking forward to, despite having already occurred. Their lack of memory, their repetition of details, and their strangely static behavior began to unsettle Amanda profoundly. On April 19th, Amanda decided to gently test them. She suggested that Thomas might enjoy the chef's beef Wellington instead of his usual sea bass. Thomas smiled and replied that he had never eaten in Cascades before, and that he was excited to try the Mediterranean fish for the first time. Amanda felt her stomach tighten. She knew she had served him the same fish for 4 nights in a row. Troubled, Amanda approached her dining room manager, Carlos Rodriguez, a veteran of 15 years in cruise ship restaurant operations. She described the Parker family's eerie repetition. At first, Carlos brushed it off as quirky guest behavior, but when he reviewed their SeaPass records, his expression changed. According to the system, the Parkers had been charged for meals at Cascades every evening since embarkation. But the same SeaPass cards also showed simultaneous dining charges at 3 other specialty restaurants: the Italian Trattoria on Deck 8, the Steakhouse on Deck 12, and the Sushi Bar on Deck 6. In other words, the system claimed the Parker family had been eating dinner at 4 different venues at exactly 7 p.m. each night. Even more disturbing were the financial details. Their daily dining charges exceeded $400 per night, far beyond the $89 per person cap of their premium package. By all rights, the system should have flagged or declined the transactions. Instead, their cards processed without restriction. Carlos escalated the matter to guest services. Manager Jennifer Kim checked the Parkers' cabin on Deck 10, a balcony suite. Housekeeping confirmed the suite appeared occupied, luggage unpacked, clothes in the closets, beds turned down, bathrooms showing signs of recent use. Yet something felt wrong. Room service trays left outside their door remained untouched for hours before vanishing. Towels were consistently folded and unused. Climate control logs revealed no fluctuations consistent with human presence, almost as if no one had truly been inside the cabin. At this point, ship security became involved. Security Chief David Chen began reviewing the ship's point of sale and surveillance data. What he discovered defied logic. The surveillance footage confirmed that the Parker family was indeed present in multiple dining rooms simultaneously at 7 p.m. The cameras clearly showed Thomas, Rebecca, and Daniel identical in dress and mannerisms, eating identical meals, and engaging in identical conversations in 4 different locations at once. The ship's facial recognition software flagged each instance as a positive identification. The same family, replicated across decks, interacting normally as though nothing were unusual. To investigate further, Dr. Michael Torres, the ship's chief medical officer, was brought in. On April 20th, during dinner service, Dr. Torres discreetly scanned the Parkers at table 42 with portable medical monitoring equipment. The results sent chills down everyone's spine. No detectable pulse, no respiration, no body temperature. To medical rumens, the Parkers did not exist as living human beings. And yet, Amanda could see them clearly before her eyes, chatting, laughing, sipping wine, and cutting into their familiar meals. Thermal imaging cameras revealed no heat signatures at their table. Electromagnetic field detectors registered irregular surges around their seating area, readings consistent not with human presence, but with unexplained anomalies. The ship's captain, Maria Gonzalez, was immediately informed. Following protocol, she contacted Royal Caribbean's Corporate Security Division through satellite link. Within 8 hours, 2 corporate investigators arrived via helicopter while the ship sailed between Naples and Rome. They seized all dining service data, surveillance footage, and payment processing equipment linked to the Parker family. Every staff member who had served them, including Amanda, was required to sign strict confidentiality agreements under threat of dismissal and legal prosecution. The official incident report, later reviewed by maritime regulators, classified the matter as a reservation and payment system malfunction. All Parker family charges were reversed. Their SeaPass cards were deactivated. Their dining reservations were canceled for the remainder of the voyage. Passengers aboard the Wonder of the Seas were never informed of the situation. But the truth was far darker. During the corporate investigation, when guest services attempted to verify the Parkers' booking details through their Denver travel agency, they uncovered a horrifying fact. Thomas, Rebecca, and Daniel Parker had died 4 months earlier. According to the Denver Police Department, the family had been killed during a violent home invasion while preparing for Daniel's graduation celebration. The intruders stole their credit cards and travel documents. All 3 death certificates were on file with Colorado state authorities. Yet somehow, the Parkers, or at least entities using their identities, had appeared aboard the Wonder of the Seas, dining at table 42 night after night. 3 weeks later, Amanda received a call from a colleague aboard Celebrity Edge. The colleague described a family of 3 from Denver, dressed the same way each evening, always arriving promptly at 7 o'clock p.m., ordering the same meals and discussing a son's graduation. Shortly after, another call came from a server on Norwegian Prima with the same story. The descriptions were identical. Thomas, Rebecca, and Daniel Parker reliving the same dinner experience across multiple ships. Shaken, Amanda requested transfer to specialty dining service where reservations were limited to one-night experiences and guest patterns were less repetitive. She avoided the main dining room thereafter. Yet the memory of table 42 haunted her. Some nights, while setting up the dining room before service, Amanda noticed the chairs at that table slightly indented as if recently occupied. Once, she found a faint red wine stain on the tablecloth, despite no one being seated there. And occasionally, when she reviewed dining reports, phantom charges appeared, payments authorized through SeaPass cards that should have been canceled months ago. This account has been cross-verified with Royal Caribbean Wonder of the Seas employment records, dining reservation logs, Denver Police Department death certificates, and internal corporate security reports. Amanda Foster still works for Royal Caribbean, but she has never spoken publicly about the Parker fam, or the impossible nights at table 42. What really happened in Cascade's dining room during that April voyage remains an unsolved mystery. A case that leaves us asking the same question investigators, servers, and corporate officials have asked ever since. When you sit down to dinner on the high seas, do you really know who is sitting across from you? Inside the glittering lights of the Grand Casino aboard the Princess Crown, during a 12-day Alaska cruise that departed from Seattle and was bound for Juneau, a veteran casino operations manager named Brian Kelly would witness gambling patterns that neither gaming regulation experts nor maritime security investigators have ever been able to explain. At first, it seemed like another busy summer voyage, a ship full of tourists eager to test their luck on the slot machines and table games after days of scenic excursions. But for Brian Kelly, what began as routine oversight of his casino floor soon evolved into one of the most unsettling encounters of his 13-year career on the seas. What he documented at Blackjack Table 7 and Slot Bank C changed everything he thought he knew about gambling systems, credit protocols, and perhaps even the very nature of the passengers he was tasked with serving. Brian Kelly was no rookie. At 41 years old, he had spent over a decade managing casino operations across Carnival, Royal Caribbean, and Princess Cruise Lines. He held multiple certifications: gaming regulations compliance, responsible gambling protocols, and casino security procedures. He knew the ins and outs of electronic tracking, how every wager was logged, how each credit was verified, and how the player management system was built to catch the smallest anomaly. On average, he oversaw gaming activities for more than 25,000 passengers annually, from penny slot novices to high-stakes poker sharks. In his world, every hand dealt, every spin of the reels, every credit inserted into a machine was supposed to be accounted for. But what he uncovered during the Morrison family's cruise in July of 2024 was not supposed to be possible, not by the laws of probability, not by the rules of technology, and not by the reality he lived in. He begins as a and the way many witnesses in these cases do, reluctantly, carefully, and with the weight of experience pressing down on every word. I'm Brian Kelly. I'm a 41-year-old casino operations manager from Las Vegas, Nevada. I've been running cruise ship gaming floors for 13 years. I've seen it all: slot machine malfunctions, cheating attempts, card counting, drunk players who swear the machines are alive. But I had never seen anything like what I'm about to describe to you. It was July 9th, 2024. The Princess Crown had departed Seattle 2 days earlier on its inside passage route to Alaska. The 12-day itinerary promised the glaciers of Glacier Bay, the charm of Ketchikan, the old railways of Skagway. On board, over 3,000 passengers filled the cabins, the restaurants, and every evening the casino floor. The Grand Casino was in full swing, a 4,500-square-foot hall of 24 table games, 180 slot machines, and electronic gaming terminals that could accommodate 400 gamblers at once. Summer meant peak occupancy. Summer meant the casino had to run like clockwork. That evening, Brian first noticed the Morrison family. They were from Austin, Texas, according to the guest services records. Donald Morrison, age 58, his wife Helen, age 55, and their daughter Christina, age 28. They had booked the cruise to celebrate Donald's early retirement, a family vacation to mark a new chapter. They had purchased the premium gaming package, casino credits, complimentary beverage service, and VIP table access. On paper, they were the kind of guests casinos loved: responsible, enthusiastic, and willing to spend. At precisely 8 o'clock, the Morrisons walked into the Grand Casino and went straight to Blackjack Table 7. Donald took first base, Helen the middle seat, and Christina third base. They smiled, chatted politely, and handed over their princess cards. The system logged them in without issue. Brian activated their gaming credits according to their package. It was routine, normal, uneventful. For 3 hours they played. Donald bet conservatively at $25 a hand. Helen sometimes pushed to $50. Christina kept steady at $25. They cheered each other's wins, groaned at losses, laughed at the dealer's jokes. By the time they left, they were down $847, a perfectly ordinary loss for recreational players on vacation. They thanked the dealer, wished other players good luck, and left together at 11:15 p.m. Everything about it was forgettable until the next night. On July 11th, at exactly 8 o'clock p.m., the Morrisons walked into the casino again. They sat in the exact same seats at Blackjack Table 7. They inserted their cards, activated credits, and began betting. Donald at 25, Helen at 50 occasionally, Christina at 25. Their conversation flowed in the same patterns, the same remarks about the beauty of the ship, the excitement of Glacier Bay ahead. And then Brian noticed something that made his stomach tighten. When Donald hit blackjack with a king of spades and ace of hearts, he slapped the table and said, 21, with the exact same intonation, the exact same grin as he had the night before. Only then the cards had been different. The family's reactions, their celebrations, their losses, it was all identical to the previous night. By July 12th, the third night, Brian's unease grew. At 8 o'clock p.m. sharp, there they were again. Same table, same positions, same betting. And again, their wins and losses unfolded in an uncanny mirror of the previous evenings. Surveillance confirmed what his instincts screamed. The Morrisons weren't just playing with habits, they were repeating, down to words, laughs, and sighs, as though scripted. It went on for 6 consecutive nights. Each evening, without fail, they arrived at precisely 8 o'clock p.m., sat in their spots and lived out the same sequence of play. Their tracked winnings and losses matched to the dollar. The random shuffle of cards didn't matter. Their outcomes somehow aligned. And through it all, their chatter circled back to the same stories, the same comments, as if time itself reset for them when they crossed the casino threshold. On July 15th, Brian decided to dig deeper. He accessed the detailed transaction logs. That's when the impossible began to take shape. According to the system, the Morrisons were indeed playing at blackjack table 7. But the logs also showed their cards actively gambling at slot machines in different parts of the casino at the exact same times. Their daily losses exceeded $2,400 per night, even though their premium package capped them at $800 each. By all logic, the system should have declined further transactions. But the cards kept processing bets endlessly, flawlessly, as though limits didn't exist. Brian brought the data to his supervisor, Patricia Chen, a veteran of 17 years. Together they combed through the logs, only to uncover more anomalies. The Morrisons' accounts showed them occupying conflicting positions simultaneously. Table games and slots across the floor, transactions overlapping, movements impossible for physical players. The system wasn't just glitching, it was behaving in ways its programming didn't allow. Patricia reached out to guest services. Their suite on Deck 8 showed keycard entries, as if they were coming and going normally, but housekeeping reported disturbing details. Personal belongings remained unmoved, day after day. Towels and bathroom amenities went unused. Beds looked slept in but never turned. Climate controls showed no changes, as though no human presence registered, yet signs of occupancy lingered. Security Chief Michael Rodriguez was called in. He pulled surveillance footage. What they saw confirmed the nightmare. The cameras showed Donald, Helen, and Christina gambling at multiple stations simultaneously. At 8 p.m. sharp, there they were at Table 7, and simultaneously, there they were at Slot Bank C feeding credits, pulling handles. Identical clothes, identical mannerisms, identical faces, perfect copies scattered across the casino floor. Facial recognition software confirmed positive matches, but no system could reconcile how the same 3 individuals were in different places at once. Rodriguez escalated. The captain was briefed. A full investigation was authorized. On July 16th, accompanied by Chief Medical Officer Dr. Lisa Martinez, Brian and the security team approached the Morrisons at Table 7. Dr. Martinez carried discreet monitoring equipment. As the family played their hands, she scanned them. The readings froze her blood. No pulse, no respiration, no body temperature, no metabolic activity. The machines insisted the players weren't alive. And yet, there they sat, chatting, betting, stacking chips. Maria Santos, the dealer, whispered later that she never felt the weight of their hands when she paid out chips. Cards seemed to lift and move without touch. Chips stacked as if guided by invisible hands. To everyone else at the table, it appeared normal. To those who knew where to look, it was horrifying. Thermal cameras showed no heat signatures. Electromagnetic detectors spiked with anomalies. Whatever was sitting in those seats looked human, sounded human, but was not. The investigation pushed higher. Corporate security was alerted. Within 10 hours, as the ship neared Glacier Bay, a helicopter landed 2 investigators on deck. They confiscated everything: logs, footage, transaction records. Staff were forced to sign confidentiality agreements under threat of termination and prosecution. The official line was neat: a casino system malfunction. Duplicated records, false transactions, all losses refunded, all cards deactivated, privileges suspended, case closed. But behind closed doors, the truth seeped out. Corporate investigators contacted Austin authorities to verify the Morrisons' background. What they learned unraveled the last thread of rationality. Donald, Helen, and Christina Morrison had died 8 months earlier. Their deaths were ruled accidental carbon monoxide poisoning. They had been found in their home recreation room, ironically, where Donald had set up a practice blackjack table in anticipation of the cruise. They had never boarded the Princess Crown. They had never even left Austin. And yet for a week they had sat in the casino. They had played. They had lost money that was processed through a system that should have rejected it. They had laughed. They had celebrated blackjacks. They had haunted every corner of the gaming floor. 2 weeks later, Brian got a call from a colleague on the celebrity solstice. Then another from Holland, America's New Amsterdam. Identical stories. A family of 3 from Austin. Same betting patterns. Same 8 o'clock p.m. arrival. Same impossible anomalies. The Morrisons, or something that wore their faces, were still out there, sailing ship to ship, repeating the same rituals night after night. Brian requested reassignment. He no longer oversees evening table games. He avoids family units who gamble in patterns too neat, too rehearsed. But even in daytime, as he preps the casino floor, he finds traces. Blackjack table 7 shows impressions of chips in the felt, cards bent as if picked up by unseen hands. Promotional coupons appear on the table unclaimed. And every so often, the daily revenue reports show phantom transactions, bets placed, chips won and lost, credits processed, from accounts belonging to people who should not, by any measure of reality, be aboard the ship. The story of the Morrison family has been cross-verified with Princess Crown employment logs, casino system documentation, Austin Fire Department death certificates, and corporate investigation files. But the public will never hear it. To them, it was a glitch, a system hiccup, a clerical error. For Brian Kelly, it was something else entirely. A reminder that in the casinos at sea, not every player sitting across from you belongs to the world of the living. And as he concludes his account, his voice drops low, heavy with dread. Every night at 8 p.m. I still glance at table 7. Sometimes the seats look heavier than they should. Sometimes I swear I hear a voice shout 21, even when the table's empty. And when I do, I don't wait around to see who's sitting there, because I already know